Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Hamsack, and today we're talking about the dungeons in Destiny. This is a little review on what I thought of the dungeons and why I think they're some of the best content in the game. In this video, I'll be talking about the good, the bad, and a little bit of the perspective from a new or younger player. Careful.
What's that?
Oh, this is like Rainbow Road.
I just died.
I have a couple of different categories that I'll be going through, and in each category, I will be going from what I think is the worst to the best. So there are 6 different dungeons in the game. We have Shattered Throne, Pit of Heresy, Prophecy, Grasp of Avarice, Duality, and Spire of the Watcher. The first category I wanted to go through is environment and design. What dungeon looks the best, feels the best, and you don't really get lost in too easily. First up in this category is Spire of the Watcher. In this dungeon, the environment and the design of everything, it's solid. It just doesn't feel as inspired and breathtaking as the other dungeons. The other dungeons just kind of do it better. The second one in this category is Shattered Throne. Even though it looks really interesting and the landscapes are pretty cool looking, it's just not very easy to navigate. You get lost pretty easy, or at least I do. It's not a very easy place to get around in, especially in the first couple of areas. It looks nice. I just I don't like it as much as the other ones.
Wait, am I supposed to be here?
I don't know. Probably not. No, that's where we came from.
Oh,
Oops.
Third on this list is Grasp of Avarice. It's not the most exciting environment. It's pretty much what you see all over the Earth area. So it's just caves and some rusted metal bunkers and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's just nothing we haven't really seen before, except for there's a giant skull wall, and they also have a bunch of giant crystals everywhere, which those look pretty cool too, but that's why this isn't too far down on the list. Also, the design of the area or the whole dungeon, is, even though it's tricky to get through, it leads you through pretty clearly in a specific direction. So you're not really ever getting lost. You're pretty much directed through the dungeon.
pretty cool. You're just sitting down. Wait.
Y'all can find it.
Oh, I found it. I'm so smart.
Oh yeah.
Next on this list is Duality. The different realms and the large scale rooms with cool, ornate design help to make the environment pretty interesting, and it's more fun to traverse through because you can go through the different realms. And the areas are pretty easy to navigate through. So this is pretty solid design. The next one is Pit of Heresy. In this one, there's massive rooms, a large scale environment, and it really makes for some exciting areas to travel through. But the wipeout course is a little bit tricky to find your way around in, and so it's a little bit of a problem I had with the Pit of Heresy. But besides that, all the other areas like the Ogre Maze and the Wipeout Zone too really keep you on your toes and make it fun to move around through. The one I think that does the best with design and environment is Prophecy. It has large scale rooms, massive environments that are just really cool to look at, and you never really get lost in this dungeon. It's pretty straightforward, nothing really too crazy. The next category I wanted to go through is non-boss encounters and platforming. The sort of stuff that's like jump puzzles, connect the dots, or zombie apocalypse, run for your life type stuff. In this category, we'll be deciding which is the most fun without being too difficult. First in this category is Shattered Throne. The first space is a little too easy to get lost in and really isn't very exciting. There's just a little bit of jumping around and killing a couple of guys. The run and gun parts are kind of cool when you can run, and the platforming might be my favorite part of the dungeon because it's actually pretty cool. Again though, the other dungeons just did it better. Number 2 or 4 or however I'm doing this is duality. For me, there wasn't anything too special about the non-boss encounters here. It was pretty much just kill a bunch of enemies and that's about it. The platforming was cool though. Switching between dimensions was actually a cool thing. Being able to open doors and reveal platforms. It made the area feel alive and gave me the illusion of controlling the world around me. This next one is prophecy. Pretty much nothing too crazy in the first area, and then the next area is just a wide open desert. It looks cool, and there's some cool bosses patrolling around, but besides that, it's just killing some guys. The cool, impressive parts were the spinning room where you got to change which gravity you were affected by. So you kept switching walls and standing on the ceiling, stuff like that was cool. And the Rainbow Road Sparrow racing track type thing, that was really cool. I loved exploring that area and jumping across through there. It made it pretty exciting that you were able to use your sparrow through that whole part. It was a cool idea for a platforming space. The next one is Pit of Heresy. The first area in this dungeon isn't too crazy, but it's a little tricky to figure out at first. But it's based on some stuff we've seen before. You just pick up a sword from one of the knights, and then you go kill some mini-bosses. Each mini-boss, there's 3 of them. You gotta kill them in 3 different ways with the sword. Either block, throw a bolt at them, or just hit them. The next area is these guys. These guys don't like that you're trying to explode their balls. It's pretty exhilarating. Trying to run from them and book it down the hallway to blow up their balls is a special experience. Then there's a part where you try to explode balls without letting the room explode. This part is pretty tough, but way fun. And the last is platforming. Balls everywhere. I love the platforming, but I wish it wasn't so hard to find your way around. The next one is Spire of the Watcher. It's basically connect the dots, but it's never been more exciting until now. It's a fish! The first area is a fun little trial to see how the dungeon will kind of flow. And then the next area is just kind of a little bit of platforming, nothing too crazy. And the part after that is a mad dash version of Connect the Dots, where you're just sprinting around trying to find all the dots and not die. It's actually a really cool and fun challenge to do solo if you're up for it. Otherwise, it's a lot easier with a second or third person. That's pretty much it for Spire of the Watcher, but I'd like to see more of this kind of stuff put in all over the game. More of these puzzle platforming type stuff would be awesome to see. So that way more solo players can do this kind of thing and still get loot from it. It's a fish! So the one I think did the best at non-boss encounters and platforming was Grasp of Avarice. The first little bit is just a pile of hesitation and stress. You're just pulling switches, running through booby traps, and trying not to die.
With the spike trap right
Super fun and crazy the first time through. After the first time, it's still fun, just not as crazy. And then it has platforming just kind of thrown throughout the whole little part. And then there's a spot with sparrow racing where you're driving through checkpoints, trying not to die from all the enemies. You did it, Lincoln.
Oh, we got it.
Oh yeah, Lincoln, you got it. Nice. After that, you gotta shoot cannonballs at a ship, and then go inside the ship and kill the pirate captain. So it's pretty cool to see all the different action-packed little spots for piratey stuff from the Goonies. Just a lot of Goonies references in there, so it's cool. Next category I went with was dungeon mechanics. How difficult they are, how fun they are, or just kind of non-existent. I'll make this quick. Most of the overall mechanics in these dungeons are pretty much the same on the surface, basically pretty similar. You just kill a guy, you get a buff, and then you just kind of deliver it around. Usually mechanics aren't very crazy in dungeons. It's usually the combination of the mechanics and fighting a bunch of enemies at the same time. However, with this first one, Shattered Throne, it's pretty much just kill guys and find animal pictures. It's nothing too complicated there. I feel like it's definitely the weakest in this category because that's pretty much it, except for the boss fights. The boss fights have a couple of things, but I'll go over that later. Duality is the next one. In this one, it's a little more unique. There's a bunch of bells. You kill some guys, you ring the bell, and then you ring another bell, and you do that over and over again. Pit of Heresy is the next one, and it's a little bit more tricky than the last two because it's got two kind of mechanics. One, you explode a bunch of balls. The other one is you steal a guy's sword and kill all of his friends with it. Prophecy is the next one. This one's a little bit more dynamic. You kill a guy in the dark and you get dark motes. You kill a guy in the light, you get light motes. And then you just deposit these motes in a little shiny thing, and that's pretty much it. I like it a lot more than the other couple of dungeons because you actually get to decide which motes you get based on where you're killing the enemy. It's a lot more dynamic, and I think it's pretty cool. Grasp of Avarice has two different mechanics. They're pretty similar to what we've seen before, where you pick stuff up and you blow stuff up. But this time, you pick up these yellow engrams, and they blow you up. But if you don't want to blow up, then you drop them off in the crystal, and the crystal will grow and open up doors and activate stuff for you. The next little mechanic is you take a guy's gun and you shoot some boxes. If you blow up the boxes, you get to open up stuff. That's pretty much it. The dungeon I think does this category the best is Spire of the Watcher. This one really isn't all too complicated. It's just my favorite. You kill a guy, become an electrician, and then you shoot some boxes. It sounds easy, but it's a lot harder when you're actually doing it because of all the enemies around. But it's also a little bit of hide and seek, which is kind of fun. For the next category, I went with boss encounters. In this category, I'll be basing it off of both bosses inside the same dungeon. So if one is worse than the other, it could pull the score down a little bit. First up is duality. It is pretty much the same as the other areas in the dungeon, where it's just ring a bell and kill a guy. Except it's just way harder because the boss has a ton of health, which makes me not really enjoy the boss fight as much, just because that's their version of difficulty sometimes, is just increasing the health of a boss. Shattered Throne is the next one. Boss 1 is really fun if you know what you're doing. You just kill the different wizards pretty close to the same time. Then you pick up the balls that they drop and you light a fire in the middle with them. And then you kill the boss. Pretty straightforward mechanics, nothing too crazy. You just want to avoid all the enemies in the room. It's a pretty big open space. Not open space, it's got pillars everywhere. So use the pillars to hide behind and you'll be alright. The second boss, however, is a tiny little arena that everyone and their goldfish is trying to kill you in. And you gotta kill 3 big knights that teleport in and out if you don't kill them all at the same time really quick. And then you got to blow up a crystal and then deal damage to the boss. It's super chaotic and not the most fun to me. Spire of the Watcher kind of runs into the same problem as Duality, where the bosses just have a large amount of health for no reason. The first boss is just connect the dots, and then whichever dot you end on is where you deal the damage to the boss. So not too crazy there. Actually a pretty cool boss fight, but the damage phase just doesn't feel rewarding enough for the amount of work you gotta do to get there. But the second boss feels way more rewarding, but it still has a little bit too much health in my opinion. Just again, connect the dots. Connect red dots first, then yellow dots, and then red dots again, and then damage the boss. Pretty chaotic little area, but it feels very rewarding for how difficult it is, where you'll be able to deal a good amount of damage to the boss, but I wish you were able to do a little bit more damage. Prophecy is the next one, and the first boss fight isn't really anything crazy. You just kill the boss in a couple of different areas using the same mechanics that you've used in the rest of the dungeon. So nothing too crazy there, but the lead up to the damage phase for that boss is a lot more rewarding because of the amount of health he has is so much less, so it feels like you actually are accomplishing something as you're killing him. The next boss, though, the second boss, is way more exciting. The lead up is pretty similar though to the first boss. You know, it's just normal mechanics you'd see in the rest of the dungeon. But the damage phase is a long pathway of floating platforms that you've got to jump across, and the boss teleports after a certain amount of time, and you kill him by just dealing damage to him. But you want to make sure you stay close to him, because if you stay too far away, a debuff will appear on your character that will kill you if it reaches 10. So you want to stay as close as you can to him without him hitting you with his wave blast thing, because the wave blast thing will send you back to the start of that little pathway. So you'll want to stay close to him, deal damage, and if you do enough damage, you can kill him. Very rewarding boss fight. A lot of cool mechanics in there. So probably one of my favorite bosses in the dungeons. Pit of Heresy is the next one, and in this dungeon, you only have one boss fight. But it's awesome. You kill the big knights, you take their swords and kill their friends, then you smash their balls, and then you shotgun the boss until he dies. That's it. But the health pool isn't very big, and it uses all the mechanics from the rest of the dungeon, so it feels good to kill him. Grasp of Avarice takes the top placement in this category for me because it has 2 boss fights and they're both good. The damage phase is rewarding, and they use the dungeon mechanics throughout the whole boss fight. The first boss, you take the Scorch Cannon to open the side rooms, then you kill the guys to get the engrams, make the crystal grow, then kill the boss. Pretty simple. Second boss is a pirate captain. You kill his mates, use the Scorch Cannon to open the engram treasure, get all the engrams, and kill the boss. They're both pretty straightforward, and they still require you to think. So I think those bosses are the best. Next category is rewards. To me, this is the most simple but the most important category, because without rewards, what's the point in doing these dungeons at all? Shattered Throne is up first. The rewards here aren't anything too special. They're pretty much the same stuff you could get anywhere else in the Dreaming City. The dungeon just made it so you could get the rewards easier. Pit of Heresy has moon armor, which isn't anything too special. And then also it has the weapons, which are really cool and usually really good. But you could just get those in the Sorrow's Harbor public event type thing. So they're just kind of more rare. Prophecy brought back some weapons that we lost, and then also brought in some really cool armor pieces that we lost. They're all worth the effort to me, and they're really cool, but the only thing is they're not new. Duality brought back some really cool guns that were taken out of the game, and then it also brought in some new armor sets. Grasp of Avarice brought in some Destiny 1 guns into Destiny 2, and then it also brought in a brand new set of armor. Spire of the Watcher is the only dungeon that brought all new weapons and all new set of armor. So if you like dressing like a cowboy, it's definitely worth the effort. The last category is for difficulty, and this will be based off of the overall difficulty at or above the recommended power level. Duality is the next one up on this list. This was the more difficult one for me. If you try to do anything solo, it feels awful. And then with 3 people, it just kind of feels like a grind. Spire of the Watcher is the next one up on my list. If you like a challenge, this one fits in that category pretty well. The final boss is pretty difficult, but feels rewarding. And the first area is a good challenge to try to do solo. What the hell? Grasp of Avarice is a perfect amount of challenge in each area, and if you have 3 people, it's loads of fun. Oh man, keep going, keep going, keep going. Ah, so close. Nice try. That was close. Alright, one more time, one more time. Shattered Throne is another great option for challenging bosses and some challenging platforming options too. With Pit of Heresy, you'll find a good amount of challenge in each of the areas without getting too frustrated like you might in some of the other dungeons. Prophecy is one of the easier dungeons to do, with a lot of the challenge being in the final boss. So if you're looking for a quicker dungeon, this might be the one for you. So after tallying up all the random magical points that I made up in my head, this is my list of best to worst. This is my opinion. You guys can have other opinions. It doesn't matter to me. Leave them in the comments though if you have a different list. Let me know what you think. So we'll start with worst, go to best, and the worst one for me was Shattered Throne. The next one is Duality, then Pit of Heresy, then Spire, Prophecy, and then the best one for me was Grasp of Avarice. Between platforming, difficulty, everything in between, all the rewards and everything like that, I think the dungeons are some of the best content in the game because you don't need a ton of people to do them, and there's still enough challenge and mystery to go through and do some of it with your friends. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for me though. So if you have your own lists and want to share them, please share them down in the comments and let me know what you guys think. If I missed anything that you thought was important, let me know. And if you liked the video and want to see more, please like and subscribe. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Grasp of avarice. Grasp, grasp of avarice. Grasp of avarice takes the top the top. Grasp of avarice brought some Destiny 1 guns to Destiny 2, and it also brought my little dance. That sounds horrible.